roles in Bihar really necessary? We will see both of those articles together. Should India relax its adoption procedures? See, even when we have many orphans in India, not a lot of them are legally available for adoption. Okay, there are way too many people who want to adopt kids, but we don't have enough number of kids in the legal pipeline. We have existing procedures to ensure child trafficking is prevented. There is a procedural red tapeism which also stops parents from adopting. Let's say there are around roughly available pool of 2000 kids up for legal adoption when there are almost lakhs and if not crores of orphans. We don't have proper legal documentation on how many people, how many kids are really orphaned. Even within the available pool of kids up for adoption, most of the families chase only a few, and the kids with special needs, they're completely ignored. Kids with, let's say for example, autism, they're not adopted. Very few parents adopt. One, we're trying to address the stigma part of adoption, and two, even if we want to end that stigma, lack of an institutional support, either in terms of legal procedures or documentation, is making the whole process of adoption very difficult. What do? Obviously, we have to carry out procedural reforms. The same thing as there in election commission issue. Procedural reforms. Okay? Documentation alone cannot stop the final purpose with which an institution exists. And just like in the case of elections or electoral politics, the role of a constitutional body like election commission or the role of any democratic institution should be to enable, not to exclude. Right? The burden of proof or lack of proof should not be imposed on, in this case, children, in that case, electors. If that is done, the risk is disenfranchisement. You are excluded from the concept of state. State is about population, territory, sovereignty and government. You are not a part of the population if you are not recognized. And that's going to be a problem. Okay? Remember this funda. If you are an empathetic civil servant, absence of documentation should not stop you from delivering the purpose with which you exist. Try to take an extra step and see, be empathetic to the people and see that maybe they deserve a chance. They're not educated. They do not have any kind of support from the system. And then when the institutions exist to help them, you are again going in a circular argument and saying that they don't deserve help because they don't have documentation. This is systemic inefficiency at place that you will see consistently across various social issues that are persisting in our country. Maybe when you become bureaucrats tomorrow, maybe try to change that. Decoding ECIs counter affidavit on SIR. See, we'll take this up slightly elaborately because there are many arguments given in this article, and I'll also explain the whole background. We have Article 324 and 326, which along with the Representation of People Act 1950, which mandates that the free and fair election, the end goal of free and fair election, which is the basis of a healthy democracy. Two key adjectives are given: free, fair. Free, fair. Free means devoid of any external influence. Fair means everybody gets a equal chance. And the institution that exists for this purpose is Election Commission of India, which is empowered through a parliamentary law, RPA 1950. So, in a way, the entire legal apparatus to ensure this end objective of free and fair elections in a democracy is again legally indirectly through people's will only. We are having it through a law where there is a due procedure established by the law. Correct. Now, whatever is happening in Bihar is against these rules according to the article writer, and there are criticisms given by the writer on how the affidavit submitted by the Election Commission of India defending its stance as to why it is doing this entire activity is not correct. The criticism says that, okay, if you think this special intensive revision is required, it should be through the rules established by a law, and that is the legitimate process in a democracy. Due process of law should be followed. That is point number one. Point number two, why does an institution exist? Free and fair. To safeguard this. This second aspect of fairness, is it upheld in this entire process, is what we should be questioning. What is fairness? What is the concept of natural justice? Natural justice means inherently human beings have a need for justice to sustain in a democracy. Say for example, in this case, you are living there for many years and you do not have proper documentation. What does natural justice within you seek? That you need help from the state. That, okay, I do not have the necessary documentation because I was never informed that this is needed. Now that you are asking, I don't know how to do it, can you help me? It's only fair, right, that when you are not aware of the documentation required, you were never informed throughout your life, it's only fair that I am expecting from the state that I get an information now. Instead, the onus is on you to say, go figure out. I don't know how you'll get the documentation, come back with it. It feels unfair. First of all, I was never told. And now that I'm asking, I'm not getting any help. How is this fair? You might get a question, right? And that is the violation of the principle of natural justice, which is happening in this case. The Election Commission vehemently defends its stance of why this special intensive revision is required to uphold the principles of democracy. And the justification it gives is that there are a lot of illegal immigrants. Now, this whole episode of illegal immigrants, is it supposed to be there even in already registered electors? Let's say you have some X number of people in a constituency. How did this X number of people enter into electoral rolls? It is because of the very process established by Election Commission only. Now, are you saying that the process that you followed is wrong? Because if you are removing candidates, it means that you have done a mistake. If that mistake is indeed done, what is the grievance? And what is the accountability that you want to show for the mistake that you did? Okay, you don't have an accountability mechanism. What is the guarantee that there is no mistake in this decision? Because in the absence of an accountability framework, when a mistake happened for the first time, what makes us think that it won't happen this time? You need to provide data. You need to show proof as to why you are taking this decision. And that proof was absent, which is again a violation of the principle of natural justice. Evidence-based lawmaking. That needs to be there. Somehow that's not followed. What are the documents that are asked from? What documents is ECI asking today? Is Aadhaar enough? Is EPIC, the issued voter card or ration card, are these enough? So Election Commission says no, this is just a proof of identity, but it cannot be a proof of citizenship. So we can't allow this. EPIC, that is the voter card. Again, this is not accepted primarily because there might be faulty entries according to the same procedure established by Election Commission itself. And then you have ration card. The justification given by ECI is that it's possible to produce fraudulent. So you are accepting that there is a flaw in governance mechanism. You are pointing fingers at some other institution which is giving this, but what about you? What is the justification? Or how can you correct the previously done mistake? The answer for this is again special intensive revision. But this again should be based on law, right? Or the rules created by that law. Is there a legal definition of the intensive word here? The answer is no. When the process is not established by law itself, what is the guarantee that it will not repeat? The same problem can appear once again. Right. So if indeed Election Commission thinks that this is so necessary, when should it ideally start? Much before the whole election process. You had 5 years of time. What is the need for this hasty decision? And what are the documents asked? It is asking for, birth certificate or passport. You are not allowing a person without any education. You are not accepting a ration card, but you think they'll have a passport. I don't know what is the justification. Birth certificate, passport, and their own birth certificate plus parents or their education certificate. Imagine how difficult it is in places like this. You know the literacy rate of Bihar, you know the situation in Bihar. How many of them are actually educated? So this option is gone. They themselves don't have, in this digital era, they themselves don't have citizenship proof or birth certificates. They're asking their parents. Then passport. I don't even want to talk about this passport. And birth certificate. The justification given by ECI is that now we will allow online submission of documentation, or migrants can give their documents to their household people and we will accept scanned copies. The problem is not online or offline. First of all, even if you give online, they will still need some external support. Let's say you have e-seva counter. Some person from Bihar now wants to submit the documentation. Why do you think the local e-seva guy or the common service centers, as you commonly know here in e-governance, in the Telugu states you have this e-seva, right? Why will that operator take the pain even if you pay to scan them, upload them and send it in the required format? Or any state representative in other states, like they don't want to take this headache because there is no uniformity. What are we doing? There is this problem of digital divide, there is problem of illiteracy, there is problem of disenfranchisement, problem of migration, where here, apart from this, there is one previous article also, right? In this article, the major criticism is that our electoral politics are designed for a, in 1950, which is predominantly rural. 82%, if I'm not wrong, according to the statistics back then, is rural India. People were just placed there. Keeping that scenario in mind, that law was present. So we don't have anything to accommodate migrants. And you know how big a problem is migration for northern part of the country. Let's say someone is working in Kanyakumari or somewhere in Madurai. Do you think they will have enough money to travel to northern part of Uttar Pradesh, North Uttar Pradesh, just beside Delhi, to go and vote? Do you think they will have the money to spend, go there and spend just for election? How fair is it? And without their participation, they are excluded. What are different countries doing? What is US doing? What is Philippines doing? What is Australia doing? There are some case studies there. To fix this problem of migration, I want you to read them. It's time that we amend the Representation of People Act. It's high time to fix this problem of migration. What is the proof of citizenship in this country? Birth certificate. Is it difficult to get a birth certificate from a local hospital? In the absence of a digitized records, all it takes is a piece of paper to produce. What is the guarantee that it is authentic? How do you authenticate digital records medically? If you don't believe that ration cards can be, good enough, what is the guarantee that in a pre-digitized era, a birth certificate is a good enough proof? What is the guarantee that it can't be fudged? If you think ration cards, Aadhaar card, even the voter card issued by election commission itself is not good enough proof, what is the logic behind saying that a birth certificate is good? When the governance systems are flawed, on what basis did the government decide that a birth certificate is issued properly? Is there any proof? Is there any historical precedent? Is there a guarantee that the system is foolproof? Is there any authentication mechanism across different districts? Forget the states, across the country, even within the districts. Even within districts, let's talk about different mandals and villages. Do you have a unified record? Then why? Why all of this? You know what is happening? What is happening? Let's take a look at another news report. "61 lakh people are out of the electoral rolls. This is neither free nor fair." Yes, there is a possibility that illegal immigrants might have popped in. There is a possibility that it can be a national security issue. But this is not the way to do it. we need time, we need procedures, we need some empathy from institutions to handle this kind of situations. And the absence of that empathy is a very big problem. Okay? Next issue. Center releases new telecom policy draft. What did I tell you? What is a policy? What is a policy document? It's a list of problems and proposed solutions. I want you to read them. It's given clearly, it's established clearly. So go find. In Philippines, in Australia, in US, they're following different mechanisms. I want you to read them. I do not explain that because it is given there. Okay, problems and solutions of a telecom policy. The future of telecom is linked to the growth of artificial intelligence as well as the entire economy around it. Just like how to start a new business in a world where we are moving towards IA 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0, how electricity was a prerequisite for business growth in previous industrial revolutions. Now we have electricity, now internet and telecom access. These are also becoming prerequisites for a growth in a AI driven economy or IA 4.0, the set of technologies which will propel the next business growth, the technologies that will facilitate a digital based growth are now contingent on the access to this electricity, internet, and internet not just through broadband but also through telecom, because cell phone based internet is the easiest way to reach out to the masses in the rural areas, and we have seen that the number of headsets far exceeds. There's a statistic, unfair comparison, but in India we have more mobile phones than the toilets that are necessary. This was a comparison drawn in the context of the Swachh Bharat mission. Anyway, the telecom policy now talks about how it is about job creation, how it is about creating new infrastructure, how it is about ensuring that cyber frauds which are based on AI, how the next set of cyber security should be based on quantum technology, quantum communication, and to facilitate that ecosystem. The infrastructure required for 6G. All these components and the proposed solutions together comprise the draft telecom policy. When this draft becomes final version, when it is released, please be aware of this. Policies are very important because they will at least help you define the scope of our current affairs on these parameters. So if there is a current affairs on quantum communication, you can link this to the policy. That's how policy documents will show us a direction of how we have to use our technologies. Okay, this is a interesting article. Recently we have had the National Sports Policy of 2025 and how sport should be creating new opportunities for expressing the potential of our country. Sports have the affinity to unify the country. In rural areas, now thanks to the CSR activities, we are witnessing a rise in global adoption of sports. Especially during the night times when all the work is done, instead of just sticking to mobile phones, in rural areas people are coming out and playing sports because of just provision of this headlights kind of a thing. Just an interesting read, nothing specific for exam purpose. You can use this thought process, like how small initiatives can change the social structure. Okay? Imagine a kid having this access throughout his schooling, right from first standard to 10th standard, every day after school, after work, they are getting to play. Do you see that environment in cities anymore? No. Rural India can, propel that next growth, next wave of growth. Maybe the next cricketing superstar, next sports superstar will be from the remotest corners of Bihar. I just hope he's not disenfranchised by election commission, because he will have to prove that he will, he can play for the country, and if he doesn't have a proper documentation, he might not play for the country. Okay, this one is about the mental health issues, and this particular article is not just about pilots. This template can, be linked to any human being in a society, especially and their attitude towards mental health. You're witnessing a dramatic rise in the number of airplane crashes across the world. What can be the reason? First, when a flight crashed in US, we thought it was lack of communication. Then when it happened in India, we thought it is pilot problem or engine failure. A lot of reasons were cited. The other day in Russia, a 50-year-old airplane crashed. The question is, why is it still flying even after 50 years? It should have been decommissioned by now. 3 different reasons: human error, technical error, negligence. But the result is common. People died. At the heart of all of this, can you imagine how traumatic it must be for families of those who are working in the airline industry? The crew, the pilots, the crew, they will have to be a part of this day in and day out. And it's definitely going to impact their mental health. And no, even if it does, a pilot will not come out and say that, I want to have some kind of a support. I'm not okay. And that's a very big stigma. Every single person of us at some point of time in our life will go through a sort of a mental low phase. Pilots are no exception. Armed forces are no exception. Yes, of course, they have a higher level of resilience, but they still face higher challenges than most people. Every single person, given their work, given their lifestyle, given their circumstances, will have a certain level of an emotional threshold. And once that emotional threshold is breached, they will need support. That is the whole point of the rhetoric around mental health. Of course, what an armed force professional or officer in the armed forces, what he sees on the ground and the trauma that it causes is not the same as a guy going through a breakup or a failed UPSC aspirant. Those people might have a higher emotional resilience, but it doesn't make the pain of common people any lesser. So there's no point in comparison. Okay? We are not supposed to compare. The whole narrative around mental health should be to improve from where we are, not normalize being low. Okay? So collective consciousness of a society should be increased. The whole rhetoric around mental health is either to normalize or not to seek help, which is counterproductive to the whole point of existence of this mental health institutions. Either you are so scared, you want to prove yourself so strong that you don't seek help, which is the case in the case of this pilots, or you normalize it to that extent, saying that even normal sadness is treated like depression, where the level of emotional resilience, slightest discomfort is treated as depression. Either of these cases is not warranted. The effort should always be to push the barriers upper and upper in all sections of the society. And that's how the collective consciousness of a society will get strengthened. Now apply the same understanding to this. You see pilots not taking up mental health support, primarily because they're scared that the Directorate General of Civil Aviation will ground them. They will remove them from their jobs. They don't want to appear weak. Then the image that they will carry, they don't want that macho kind of an attitude where a pilot is supposed to be always strong. That image will be shaken if mental health support is taken. The reality is, after COVID, during COVID, one of the worst hit industries is the aviation industry. The kind of losses they will have when a flight is cancelled is very, very high. And to recover all those losses, the kind of pressure the professionals in this aviation sector they were facing in the past 4 years is very high. There are layoffs. An entire industry is probably shaken up so badly that they didn't know how to come back from that. There were rising loans, they were losing jobs, their work number of flying hours increased dramatically. It's just not the same. Of course they're under pressure, they're burnt out and they need support. How else can you explain similar accidents happening now across the world? Okay, so that's the whole rhetoric. And finally, this climate change related incidents. Because of climate change, there is a rising level in water bodies, and drowning is a major issue. We need institutional support as well as awareness to fix this problem. Not so important, but just wanted to discuss. And that brings us to the conclusion of today's articles. That's it for the day. Thank you.